How could you invade a Class 15 Deathworld? Commanders realize their doom. Part 1. The Arrogant Arrival Commander. Thrace stood on the command deck of the Imperial warship Dominion, gazing at the star charts with satisfaction. Behind him stretched a fleet of 800 warships, the largest invasion force the Zenthari Empire had assembled in a century. Sleek vessels of silver and gold filled the void of space, their weapon systems humming with deadly potential. Thrace was a veteran of 43 planetary conquests. His scales bore the distinctive crimson markings of a supreme commander, earned through decades of successful campaigns. To his people, he was a legend. To countless species across the galaxy, he was a nightmare made flesh. "Status report," Thrace commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never known defeat. His second officer, Lieutenant Vex, consulted the holographic display. "Fleet formation optimal, Commander. All vessels report combat ready. We will reach the target system designated Sol in approximately 2 standard hours." Thrace nodded, his narrow eyes focusing on the blue planet displayed on the screen. "Sol 3, what do we know about the inhabitants?" Vex pulled up the intelligence report. Species designation, humans. Technological level, primitive. They have achieved basic space travel within their own system, but lack faster-than-light capability. Population approximately 8 billion. Military assessment, negligible threat. And yet the High Council authorized a full invasion fleet, Thrace mused, something troubling him about the excessive force. "The Council is cautious, Commander," Vex replied. "There were some unusual readings from scout probes. Several failed to return from the system. However, this is likely due to equipment malfunction rather than hostile action." Thrace dismissed his concerns. Primitive species could be unpredictable, but they were never truly dangerous. The Zenthari had conquered 47 worlds. This would be the 48th, and it would fall like all the others. What neither Thrace nor his officers knew was that those lost probes had not malfunctioned. They had been captured, studied, reverse-engineered, and improved upon by a species that had spent 3 decades preparing for exactly this moment. Deep within the Sol system, on a blue planet that looked deceptively peaceful from space, Admiral Sarah Mitchell stood in the underground command center, beneath what had once been the North American Strategic Defense Complex. The walls around her displayed real-time data from sensors scattered throughout the solar system. "Confirmed," reported her tactical officer. 800 contacts bearing 273. Composition matches Zenthari Imperial Fleet formations from our database. Sarah was a woman in her 50s, with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too many war games become reality. She had spent 15 years preparing Earth's defenses for this day, ever since the first Zenthari probe had been recovered from the Pacific Ocean. "All stations, this is Admiral Mitchell. Condition red, I repeat, condition red. This is not a drill. The invasion we have prepared for has arrived." Across Earth, millions of personnel moved to their assigned positions. Weapon systems that had been disguised as communication satellites and space debris powered up. Hidden bases opened to reveal fighter squadrons. The entire planet had been transformed into a fortress, and the aliens had no idea what they were flying into. Dr. James Chen watched the alien fleet approach from his laboratory in the Lunar Research Station. As Earth's leading expert on xenobiology, he had spent years studying the recovered Zenthari technology and biological samples from the probe crashes. "They breathe a nitrogen-oxygen mix similar to ours," he reported to the command center. "But their ideal atmospheric pressure is 0.7 Earth standard. Their temperature tolerance is narrow, between 15 and 28 degrees Celsius. They evolved on a garden world with stable climate and gentle seasons. In other words," Sarah replied over the communication link, "they've never experienced a real challenge." "Exactly. Earth will be hostile to them on a fundamental biological level. Every breath will be a struggle. Every temperature variation will stress their systems. They're walking into an environment that will fight them as much as we will." Sarah smiled grimly. "Good. Let's give them a proper Earth welcome." The Zenthari fleet crossed the orbit of Neptune, and Thrace ordered the formation to tighten. Standard invasion protocol called for overwhelming force applied quickly to break the enemy's will to resist. "Commander," Vex reported, his voice uncertain, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet." "Audio only. Play it." A human voice filled the command deck, speaking in perfectly accented Zenthari language. Attention Zentarii fleet. This is Admiral Sarah Mitchell of the United Earth Defense Force. You are entering sovereign human territory. Turn back now and no harm will come to you. Continue your approach, and you will discover why this system is classified as restricted space. Thrace laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. They speak our language? Clever primitives. Perhaps they will make amusing pets after we conquer them. Should I respond, Commander? No, let them tremble in silence. Prepare for orbital bombardment. I want their major cities reduced to rubble within the first hour. But as the fleet crossed the orbit of Jupiter, something changed. The sensors began registering anomalies. What had appeared to be asteroids and space debris suddenly showed power signatures. Commander, Vex called out, alarm creeping into his voice. Multiple contacts emerging from concealment. Analysis indicates artificial structures disguised as natural objects. Before Thrace could respond, the ambush erupted. Hundreds of human vessels that had been hiding throughout the outer solar system revealed themselves simultaneously. They had been there all along, waiting with the patience of predators who knew their prey would come. The human ships didn't match any known design in the Zentarii database. They were built for war in ways that made the alien commander's blood run cold. These weren't the vessels of a primitive species. These were warships designed by beings who understood conflict on a fundamental level. All ships, defensive formation, Thrace commanded. Return fire. The battle began with a fury that shocked the Zentarii. Human weapons struck with precision and power that shouldn't have been possible. Railguns firing projectiles at relativistic speeds punched through Zentarii shields. Missile swarms overwhelmed point defense systems. Energy weapons of unknown design cut through armor like it was paper. Captain Maria Rodriguez led her fighter squadron into the heart of the alien formation. Her craft was small and agile, built in secret shipyards hidden within the asteroid belt. The Zentarii had never detected the massive construction effort that had turned humanity's solar system into an armed fortress. Diamond formation, she commanded her pilots. Target their shield generators. Use the attack patterns we practiced. The fighters moved with coordination that came from years of training. They struck at the weak points Dr. Chen had identified in the alien technology, exploiting vulnerabilities that the Zentarii didn't even know existed. Thrace watched his fleet taking losses and couldn't believe what he was seeing. How is this possible? They're primitives. They don't have this technology. Vex was frantically analyzing the battle data. Commander, the humans are using modified versions of our own weapons. They've improved our designs. Some of these systems are more advanced than anything in the Imperial arsenal. Impossible. Sir, they've had our probe technology for decades. They've been studying us, learning from us, and preparing for this day. The realization hit Thrace like a physical blow. The humans hadn't been primitive. They had been patient. They had captured Zentarii technology, reverse-engineered it, improved upon it, and built an entire defensive network while the Empire remained ignorant. Recall the advanced squadrons, Thrace ordered. Reform at Rally Point Gamma. We need to reassess this situation, but the humans weren't going to let them regroup that easily. As the Zentarii fleet attempted to withdraw and consolidate, more human forces appeared. Ships rose from Earth itself, launched from facilities that had been hidden beneath oceans, mountains, and cities. The planet was literally bristling with weapons. Admiral Mitchell watched the tactical display with satisfaction. They're trying to fall back. Don't let them. Drive them toward the Mars engagement zone. The Zentarii fleet found itself being herded like livestock toward the orbit of Mars. As they approached the red planet, massive defense platforms emerged from Martian orbit. Weapons that had been buried beneath the Martian surface years ago activated. The Empire's proud invasion fleet was being torn apart by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light, escape pods jettisoned from dying vessels. The perfect formation that had entered the system was now a chaotic mass of burning wreckage and desperate survivors. Thrace gripped the command console, his claws leaving marks in the metal. Get me a communication channel to the human commander, now! Moments later, Sarah Mitchell's face appeared on the view screen. She looked calm, almost serene, as if orchestrating the destruction of an invasion fleet was just another day's work. Commander Thrace, she said, I assume you're ready to discuss terms? You cannot win, Thrace snarled. Even if you destroy this fleet, the Empire will send more. We have thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. We will overwhelm you with sheer numbers." Sarah smiled, and there was something terrifying in that expression. "Commander, you still don't understand what you're facing. This isn't just another garden world for you to conquer. This is Earth. We are humans, and we have something your Empire has never encountered before." "What's that?" "Experience with survival. You see, Commander, our planet has tried to kill us 5 times. Ice ages, asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, mass extinctions. Each time we survived. We didn't just survive, we thrived. We learned to turn every disaster into an opportunity, every challenge into a strength." She leaned forward, her eyes hard as diamonds. "You thought you were invading a primitive world. You're actually invading the most dangerous planet in this sector of the galaxy. And we're going to teach you why intelligent species from Deathworlds don't get invaded. We become the invaders." Thrace felt something he hadn't experienced in decades, genuine fear. "You have one chance," Sarah continued. "Order your remaining ships to stand down. Surrender completely. Provide us with all intelligence about your Empire's military capabilities, star charts and communication protocols. Do this, and we'll allow your survivors to return home with a message. And if I refuse—" Sarah's smile widened. "Then we'll show you what Phase 2 of our defense plan looks like. Trust me, Commander, you don't want that. What you've seen so far was just us saying hello." Thrace looked at his tactical display. Half his fleet was already destroyed or disabled. The humans had barely scratched the surface of their defensive capabilities. And if Phase 1 was this devastating, he didn't want to imagine what Phase 2 entailed. "What message would we carry home?" he asked quietly. "Simple. Earth is off limits. This system is under human protection. Any species that comes here in peace will be welcomed. Any species that comes here with hostile intent will learn why you don't invade a Class 15 death world." "Class 15? Vex whispered behind Thrace. "But those are theoretical. No species could evolve on such a hostile world." "We did," Sarah said, having heard him. "And now you know what that means. So what's it going to be, Commander? Do you surrender, or do we continue?" Thrace looked around his bridge at his frightened officers. Then at the view screen showing Earth hanging in space like a blue jewel. Beautiful, peaceful, and more dangerous than anything the Zenthari Empire had ever encountered. He had come to conquer a primitive world. Instead, he had discovered that humanity had been waiting for the galaxy to find them, and they were ready for anything that came through their door. "I surrender," Thrace said, the words bitter in his mouth. "What are your terms?" "The Deathworld awakens." The surrender of Commander Thrace's fleet shocked the Zenthari High Council. For the first time in Imperial history, a full invasion force had been defeated by a supposedly primitive species. But not all of the Council accepted this humiliation. Grand Marshal Corvin, the Empire's supreme military commander, refused to believe that humans could be as dangerous as Thrace's reports claimed. He was weak, Corvin declared in the Council chamber on the Zenthari homeworld. He panicked when facing unexpected resistance. "I will personally lead a second fleet and complete what Thrace failed to accomplish." The Science Counselor, Elder Kira, raised a warning. "The data from Thrace's ship sensors is concerning, Marshal. The human homeworld shows environmental readings consistent with a Class 15 Deathworld classification. Perhaps we should reconsider this campaign." Corvin's eyes flashed with anger. "Class 15 worlds are theoretical. They exist in academic databases, not in reality. I will not allow our Empire to be frightened by primitive aliens and their clever tricks. Prepare the Second Armada. I will bring 2,000 ships and 1 million ground troops. The humans will learn that resisting the Zenthari Empire is futile." Within days, the largest military force in Zenthari history assembled and departed for the Sol system. Corvin stood on his flagship, the Imperial Glory, surrounded by the pride of the Zenthari military. He had reviewed Thrace's defeat and concluded that the humans had simply gotten lucky with their ambush tactics. This time the Empire would be ready. On Earth, Admiral Sarah Mitchell received word of the approaching Second Fleet and immediately convened a meeting of the Defense Council. Dr. James Chen attended via holographic link from the Moon, where he was supervising the interrogation of captured Zenthari soldiers. "They're sending everything they have," Sarah reported. "Intelligence suggests this fleet is twice the size of Thrace's force and led by their supreme military commander. They intend to overwhelm us with sheer numbers." General Marcus Stone, commander of Earth's ground forces, studied the tactical projections. Then we give them what they want. Let them land their ground troops. Let them try to establish bases on our world. Dr. Chen nodded in agreement. I've completed my analysis of Zenthari physiology. They're adapted to garden world conditions. Earth's environment will be actively hostile to them. Gravity, atmospheric pressure, temperature ranges, microbial life, everything will work against them. Can they survive here at all? Asked Director Yuki Tanaka, head of the Asian defense sector. Oh, they can survive, Chen replied with a grim smile. But survival and combat effectiveness are two different things. Every moment they spend on Earth will tax their systems. They'll be fighting two enemies, us and the planet itself. Sarah made her decision. Then we let them come. We let them land. And we teach the galaxy what happens when you invade a Deathworld. 3 weeks later, the Zenthari Second Armada entered the Sol system. Grant Marshal Corvin had learned from Thrace's mistakes. His fleet approached in a defensive formation, with shields at maximum strength. Scout ships preceded the main force, scanning for hidden human vessels. Multiple human ships detected throughout the system, reported Corvin's tactical officer. They're not hiding this time, Marshal. They want us to see them. Corvin studied the display. The human fleet was smaller than his armada, perhaps 600 vessels against his 2,000. The numbers favored the Empire decisively. Maintain formation. Begin the advance toward the third planet. What Corvin didn't realize was that the visible human ships were only a fraction of Earth's defensive forces. Hidden weapons platforms, disguised as satellites and space debris, watched his fleet approach. On Earth itself, millions of soldiers waited in positions that had been prepared over decades. As the Zenthari fleet entered Earth's orbital space, Corvan gave his orders. Begin ground assault. I want troops on the surface within the hour. Target 3 locations. The frozen northern continent for isolation, the dense jungle regions for resources, and the open desert areas for establishing forward bases. Thousands of dropships launched toward Earth's surface, carrying the Empire's finest soldiers. They descended through the atmosphere in tight formations, confident in their overwhelming numerical advantage. Lieutenant Kess commanded one of the first dropships, heading for the Arctic region, designated as Landing Zone North. His team of 50 soldiers was equipped with the best armor and weapons the Empire could provide. They had trained for months for this assault. Approaching surface, his pilot reported. Temperature reading, -42 degrees. Atmospheric pressure, 1.3 standard. Gravity, 1.3 standard, Kess frowned. The gravity and pressure were higher than comfortable, but manageable. The temperature was concerning, but their environmental suits were rated for extreme conditions. Prepare for landing. Standard defensive perimeter upon touchdown. The dropship settled onto the frozen landscape of northern Alaska. The rear ramp lowered, and Kess led his team out onto Earth's surface. The cold hit them immediately, even through their suits. Ice crystals formed on their visors. The heavy gravity made every movement exhausting. Form up, Kess ordered. Establish the perimeter. Science team begin environmental analysis. What Kess didn't know was that he was being watched. Captain Elena Volkov and her Arctic Warfare Unit had been tracking the alien landing from positions concealed in the snow. Helena was a native of Siberia, born and raised in conditions that would kill the aliens within hours. Hold positions, Elena whispered to her team. Let the environment soften them up first. The Zenthari soldiers struggled to move through the deep snow. Their equipment, designed for garden world conditions, began malfunctioning in the extreme cold. Power cells drained faster than normal. Weapons systems sluggish. Communication equipment crackled with interference. Lieutenant, one of Kess's soldiers, called out. Perimeter sensors are detecting movement. Large heat signatures. Multiple contacts. Kess activated his tactical display. The sensors showed massive shapes moving through the snow. Battle formation. Prepare to engage. What emerged from the blizzard were polar bears. 3 massive creatures, each weighing over half a ton, curious about the strange beings in their territory. To the Zenthari, who had never encountered predators larger than small dogs on their homeworld, the bears looked like monsters from nightmare. Open fire, Kess screamed. The weapons fire drove the bears away, but the damage was done. The Zenthari soldiers had expended ammunition on wildlife. Worse, Their weapons fire had given away their position to human forces in the area. Elena smiled as she received the targeting data. They just told us exactly where they are. Prepare to engage. Meanwhile, in the Amazon rainforest, Commander Zek led an assault force of 200 soldiers into the dense jungle. The mission was to secure resources and establish a forward supply base. The jungle looked perfect for concealment and rich in raw materials. Deploy in standard formation, Zek commanded. Science teams, begin cataloging useful resources. Engineering teams, select the best location for base construction. The Zenthari moved through the jungle cautiously, weapons ready for human resistance. What they weren't ready for was the jungle itself. Within minutes, the soldiers began experiencing problems. The humidity was oppressive, far higher than anything they had trained for. Their environmental suits' filtration systems struggled to keep up. Soldiers began removing their helmets to breathe, exposing themselves to Earth's atmosphere. Private Wren was the first to notice something wrong. Small insects had begun landing on his exposed neck. They were tiny, almost invisible, but their bites burned like fire. Sir, local insect life is attacking us. Within minutes, dozens of soldiers were covered in bites from mosquitoes, fire ants, and other insects. The Zenthari immune systems, evolved on a world with minimal disease pressure, couldn't cope with Earth's aggressive microbial life. Dr. Isabella Santos watched from her concealed observation post in the jungle canopy. She had spent 5 years preparing biological countermeasures, specifically designed to exploit Zenthari. Vulnerabilities, release the modified organisms, she ordered her team. Drones flew over the alien positions, releasing clouds of bacteria and spores that were harmless to Earth life, but devastating to the aliens. The Zenthari soldiers began falling ill within minutes. Fever, respiratory distress, and digestive problems spread through their ranks like wildfire. Commander, we need immediate medical evacuation, Zek's medical officer reported. 70% of our force is incapacitated by unknown pathogens. In the Sahara Desert, Colonel Vex led the largest ground force, 500 soldiers assigned to establish the main Imperial base. The desert seemed perfect. Open terrain, good visibility, minimal vegetation to provide cover for human forces. The base construction began under the blazing sun. The Zenthari engineers worked efficiently, setting up prefabricated structures and defense systems. For the first few hours, everything proceeded according to plan. Then the temperature began to rise. Earth's sun beat down on the desert, with intensity the aliens had never experienced. By midday, the temperature reached 55 degrees Celsius. The Zenthari equipment began overheating. Cooling systems designed for moderate temperatures couldn't handle the brutal heat. Sir, reported the base engineer, all construction equipment is shutting down automatically to prevent thermal damage. We cannot continue operations in these conditions. Vex checked his suit's readout. The temperature was well beyond the safety limits of Zenthari physiology. His soldiers were collapsing from heat exhaustion, despite their environmental suits. All personnel return to the transport ships. We'll resume construction after sunset when temperatures moderate. But Colonel Ahmed Hassan, commander of Earth's Desert Defense Force, had other plans. He watched the aliens retreat to their ships and smiled. Wait until they see what happens at night. As the sun set, the temperature plummeted. Within 2 hours, it dropped from 55 degrees to 10 degrees. The rapid temperature change caused catastrophic stress to the alien equipment. Metal components that had expanded in the heat contracted rapidly. Seals cracked. Joints failed. The base the aliens had spent hours building began falling apart. In space above Earth, the battle continued. Grand Marshal Corvin watched in growing disbelief as his ground forces reported failure after failure. Every landing site was experiencing catastrophic problems. How is this possible? He demanded. We have the superior numbers, superior technology, superior training. How are we losing to these primitives? His science officer, a young analyst named Tira, had been studying the environmental data from all 3 landing sites. What she discovered made her blood run cold. Marshal, I've completed my analysis. The human homeworld is not a garden world. It's classified as a Class 15 Deathworld. The highest danger rating in our system. That's impossible. No intelligent species could evolve on such a hostile planet. So humans did. They evolved on a world that has experienced 5 mass extinction events. Asteroid impacts that blocked out the sun for years. Ice ages that covered most of the planet in glaciers, volcanic eruptions that poisoned the atmosphere. Every few million years, Earth tries to kill everything living on it. The only species that survived were the ones that could adapt to anything. Corvan stared at the blue planet on his view screen. Beautiful, peaceful, and more dangerous than any world the Empire had ever encountered. Humans aren't primitive, Tira continued. They're the ultimate survivors. They've evolved to thrive in conditions that would kill us. Extreme temperatures, high gravity, crushing atmospheric pressure, aggressive diseases, dangerous wildlife. What we see as a nightmare they call home. As if to emphasize her point, new reports flooded in from the surface. The Arctic team had been routed by human forces that moved through the frozen landscape like they were born there. The jungle team was evacuating with 80% casualties from disease and environmental hazards. The desert base had been abandoned after equipment failures made it impossible to operate. Admiral Sarah Mitchell broadcast a message to the Zenthari fleet. Marshal Corvan, your ground forces are defeated. Your soldiers are dying. Not from our weapons, but from exposure to our world. Earth itself is fighting you. Every breath your soldiers take is a struggle. Every step they take is exhausting. You're not fighting an army. You're fighting an entire planet. She paused, letting her words sink in. You can still save your remaining troops. Order a complete withdrawal. Leave our system and never return. Or continue this futile assault and watch your soldiers die from heat, cold, disease, and exhaustion. The choice is yours. Corvan's hands trembled as he gripped the command console. He had brought the Empire's finest soldiers to conquer a primitive world. Instead, he was watching them be destroyed by a planet that turned out to be the galaxy's most effective killing machine. Marshal, his communications officer, reported, "We're receiving emergency transmissions from all ground forces. They're requesting immediate evacuation. Casualties are at 60% and rising." Corvan looked at the tactical display showing his dying soldiers scattered across Earth's surface. Then he looked at the human fleet, outnumbered but undefeated, waiting patiently for his response. For the second time in Zenthari history, an invasion of Earth had failed. But this time, the Empire was beginning to understand the terrible truth. They hadn't failed because of inferior tactics or bad luck. They had failed because they had tried to invade a death world, and death worlds don't get conquered. They consume invaders whole. The price of invasion. The emergency session of the Zenthari High Council convened within hours of Grand Marshal Corvan's withdrawal from the Sol system. The ornate council chamber, built to showcase the Empire's glory, now felt like a tomb. Representatives from 47 conquered worlds watched in silence as their supreme military commander delivered his report. Corvan stood before the council, his proud bearing diminished by defeat. Behind him, holographic displays showed the devastation: burning ships, dying soldiers, abandoned equipment scattered across Earth's hostile surface. "We lost 1,200 vessels," Corvan reported, his voice hollow. 400,000 soldiers dead or missing, 300,000 more injured or incapacitated by disease. The humans destroyed the largest military force we've ever assembled, and they barely used their full capabilities. Elder Kira, the science counselor who had warned against the invasion, spoke quietly. "Marshal, your report mentions repeated references to Earth being classified as a Class 15 death world. Can you elaborate?" Corvan gestured to his science officer, Tira, who stepped forward nervously. She activated a comprehensive data presentation that filled the chamber with Earth's environmental specifications. "Honored council members," Tira began, "I have completed extensive analysis of the human homeworld. The classification is accurate. Earth exhibits characteristics that make it the most hostile inhabited planet we've ever encountered." The data spoke for itself. Temperature ranges that varied by over 100 degrees between seasons and locations. Atmospheric pressure that would crush equipment designed for standard conditions. Gravity 1.3 times galactic standard. Weather systems capable of generating winds over 300 kilometers per hour. Seismic activity that could devastate entire regions. Volcanic eruptions that could alter global climate. The planet experiences regular catastrophic events, Tira continued. Hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, blizzards, droughts. What other species consider rare disasters, humans experience routinely. They have built their entire civilization around surviving conditions that would destroy most galactic species. Representative Mora from the agricultural world of Tender spoke up. But surely the humans themselves must be fragile to require such advanced technology for protection. Tira shook her head. That's the terrifying part, Representative. Humans don't need technology to survive on Earth. They're biologically adapted to it. Their physical capabilities exceed ours in nearly every measurable category. She displayed comparative physiological data. Humans can operate in temperatures from -40 to +50 degrees Celsius without protective equipment. They can survive an atmospheric pressure ranging from 0.7 to 1.5 standard. Their immune systems are so aggressive that they actually attack their own bodies if not constantly challenged by pathogens. Their musculature is adapted for high gravity, she continued. What feels crushing to us is normal to them. They can run for hours without rest, a trait called persistence hunting. On their own world, they literally chase prey animals until the animals collapse from exhaustion. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Zenthari had tried to invade a world inhabited by beings who were essentially living weapons, shaped by billions of years of survival in the galaxy's harshest conditions. Chancellor Oryx, leader of the High Council, finally spoke. What of the humans' technological capabilities? Could we not overcome their biological advantages with superior firepower? Corvin laughed bitterly. Your Excellency, the humans have superior technology. They captured our scout probes decades ago. They reverse-engineered our designs, improved upon them, and built a defensive network that makes our military look primitive. He displayed footage from the space battles, human weapons systems operating with precision and power that exceeded Zenthari capabilities, ships with armor and shields that shouldn't have been possible with the limited resources of a single solar system. Tactical coordination that suggested decades of military preparation. They were waiting for us, Corvin said, not for months or years, for decades. They knew we would come eventually. They prepared every scenario. They turned their entire solar system into a fortress specifically designed to destroy invasion fleets. Deep in the Sol system, Admiral Sarah Mitchell met with the Joint Chiefs of Earth's military forces and the civilian leadership of the United Earth Government. President James Okonkwo, recently elected to lead humanity's first truly unified global government, listened to the strategic briefing with careful attention. 2 Zenthari fleets defeated, Sarah summarized. Total estimated enemy casualties, 600,000. Our casualties, 4,300. The exchange ratio is overwhelmingly in our favor. General Marcus Stone added his ground forces report. The aliens couldn't operate effectively in our environment. Their equipment failed. Their soldiers got sick. Their tactics assumed they were fighting on a garden world. They never adapted to Deathworld conditions. What's the Zenthari Empire's next move? President Okonkwo asked. Dr. James Chen, who had been monitoring captured Zenthari communications, provided the answer. Their High Council is in emergency session. Intelligence suggests they're debating whether to authorize a third invasion attempt or to classify Earth as a forbidden zone. Can they field a third fleet? They could, Sarah replied, but it would take years to rebuild their losses. More importantly, word is spreading through galactic civilization. Other species are learning about their defeats. The Empire's reputation for invincibility is shattered. Director Yuki Tanaka raised the question everyone was thinking. So what do we do now? Wait for them to come back? Take the fight to them? Hide and hope they leave us alone? President Okonkwo stood and walked to the window overlooking the command center. Below, thousands of personnel monitored Earth's defenses, ready to respond to any threat. These people had united the world's nations under a single banner when the first Zenthari probe was discovered. They had achieved what centuries of diplomats and politicians couldn't. True global cooperation. None of those options, the president said. We go to them. Not as conquerors, but as equals. We show the galaxy that Earth is not afraid, not hiding and not conquered. We establish diplomatic relations with every species that will talk to us. We make it clear that any future aggression against Earth will be met with overwhelming force, but we offer peaceful cooperation to those who respect our sovereignty. Sarah raised a concern. Mr. President, we don't have faster-than-light travel yet. It will take us months to reach even the nearest Zenthari systems. Then we take one of theirs, the President replied with a slight smile. We have how many captured Zenthari vessels? 73 still operational, General Stone reported. More than enough. Admiral Mitchell, I want you to select your best crews. We're going to load those ships with diplomats, scientists, and a very clear message. Earth is open for business, but we're not pushovers. Any species that respects us will find us valuable allies. Any species that threatens us will learn the same lesson the Zenthari learned. 3 months later, a small fleet of modified Zenthari vessels approached the border of Empire space. Leading them was Admiral Sarah Mitchell, aboard the captured flagship that had once belonged to Commander Thrace, now renamed the Terran Ambassador. The Zenthari Border Patrol detected them immediately and scrambled a defensive fleet. But instead of weapons fire, they received a broadcast on all frequencies. Attention, Zenthari forces. This is Admiral Sarah Mitchell of the United Earth Government. We come in peace to establish formal diplomatic relations with your empire. We request an audience with your High Council to discuss terms of mutual non-aggression and potential cooperation. The Zenthari patrol commander stared at his view screen in disbelief. The humans had taken captured warships, crewed them with their own people, and flown them straight to the Empire's borders. The audacity was breathtaking. Human vessel, he responded carefully. You are flying stolen Imperial property. By rights, we should destroy you. Sarah's response was calm and confident. You're welcome to try, Commander. Your Empire sent 2 fleets to conquer Earth. Both were defeated. Do you really want to start a third war, or would you prefer to accept our offer of peace? The patrol commander thought about the reports from the Sol system. Hundreds of thousands of dead Zenthari, ships destroyed by weapons that outmatched Imperial technology, a planet that literally killed invaders through environmental hazards alone. Stand by, human vessel. I'm contacting High Council for instructions. On the Zenthari homeworld, the High Council convened another emergency session. This time, instead of planning invasion, they debated whether to receive Earth's diplomatic mission. This is unprecedented, Chancellor Oryx said. No conquered species has ever approached us as equals. No primitive world has ever defeated our military forces. What do these humans want? Elder Kira studied the intelligence reports that had been compiled over the past months. Based on their broadcasts and captured communications, they want recognition as a sovereign power. They want trade agreements, cultural exchange, and most importantly, they want assurance that we will never attempt to invade their system again. And if we refuse, then they will establish diplomatic relations with our rivals and enemies, Kira replied. They have already made contact with the Kavarian Collective and the Tarathi Federation. Both are eager to ally with a species capable of defeating Zenthari forces. Representative Mora spoke up. Perhaps we should consider their offer. We have lost twice to these humans. Further conflict serves no purpose. If we can establish peaceful relations, we might even benefit from their technology and unique perspective. The debate continued for hours, but gradually a consensus emerged. The Zenthari Empire, for the first time in its history, would negotiate with a species that had defeated them in battle. 1 week later, Admiral Sarah Mitchell stood in the Grand Council chamber, the first human to ever set foot on the Zenthari homeworld. She wore her formal military dress uniform, every medal she'd earned displayed prominently. Behind her stood a delegation of Earth's finest diplomats, scientists, and cultural representatives. Chancellor Oryx addressed her formally. Admiral Mitchell of Earth, you have requested this audience. Speak your terms. Sarah stepped forward confidently. Chancellor, honored council members, I come representing the United Earth Government with a simple proposition. Earth wishes to establish peaceful relations with the Zenthari Empire, based on mutual respect and non-aggression. You defeated 2 of our fleets, Corvin interrupted. Why should we trust that you come in peace? Sarah turned to face the Marshal directly. Because we could have destroyed your fleets completely, but we didn't. We allowed survivors to return home. We provided medical care to your wounded. We treated your prisoners with dignity, according to our own laws of war. We fought only to defend our sovereignty, not to conquer or humiliate. She gestured to the holographic display in the center of the chamber. Marshal Corvin, you led the second invasion force. You saw what Earth's defenses are capable of. Tell this council, did we pursue your retreating ships? Did we strike at your homeworld? Did we do anything except defend our own territory? Corvin remained silent, but his expression confirmed her words. Sarah continued, addressing the full council. Earth is a death world. We evolved in conditions that would kill most galactic species. This makes us formidable in combat, yes, but it also makes us valuable allies. We understand survival. We understand adaptation. We understand cooperation in the face of overwhelming odds. For billions of years, our planet tried to kill us. Asteroid impacts, ice ages, volcanic eruptions, pandemics, predators, starvation. We survived not by conquering nature, but by learning to work with it, by adapting to it, by understanding that our greatest strength comes from unity and mutual support. She activated the display, showing images of Earth. Vast cities, agricultural zones, industrial centers, all existing in harmony with preserved natural environments. We have unified our entire planet under a single government for the first time in our history, not through conquest but through cooperation. 7 billion individuals, hundreds of cultures, speaking thousands of languages, all working together because we recognize that we face challenges bigger than our petty differences. President Okonkwo stepped forward, his deep voice carrying authority throughout the chamber. Honored Council, Earth offers the Zenthari Empire a choice. You can continue to see us as enemies, as a threat to be eliminated. That path leads to continued conflict, more loss of life, and the eventual weakening of your empire as your resources are diverted to fighting a species you cannot defeat. Or, he continued, you can accept us as equals and potential allies. We have technology you don't possess. We have perspectives shaped by surviving on a death world. We have resources you need and can offer trade agreements beneficial to both our peoples. Chancellor Oryx leaned forward. What exactly are you proposing? Sarah outlined the terms. First, a formal non-aggression pact. The Zenthari Empire agrees to never again attempt military action against Earth or human interests. In return, Earth agrees to never conduct offensive operations against Zenthari territory. Second, establishment of an embassy exchange. We assign diplomatic representatives to your homeworld. You assign representatives to Earth. This allows direct communication and prevents future misunderstandings. Third, technology and knowledge sharing on mutually agreed terms. We are particularly interested in your faster-than-light drive technology. In exchange, we can offer advancements in materials science, environmental adaptation technology, and defensive systems. Fourth, trade agreements. Earth has resources and products that don't exist in garden world environments. Exotic minerals, unique biological compounds, and manufacturing capabilities developed for high-gravity, high-pressure conditions. Elder Chira studied the proposals carefully. These terms seem remarkably generous considering you defeated 2 invasion fleets. Why not demand reparations? Why not insist on territorial concessions? Dr. James Chen spoke for the first time, his voice calm and academic. Because we understand history, Elder. We've studied thousands of years of conflict on our own world. We know that peace built on humiliation doesn't last. The defeated party inevitably seeks revenge, and the cycle continues. We want sustainable peace, he continued. Peace built on mutual benefit and respect. Your empire is vast and ancient. You have knowledge and experience that could benefit humanity. We have capabilities that could benefit you. Why waste resources fighting when we could both prosper through cooperation? The council members conferred among themselves in low voices. The human delegation waited patiently, knowing that this moment would shape the future of both species. Finally, Chancellor Oryx spoke. The council will consider your proposals. We will provide our response within 3 standard days. In the meantime, you and your delegation are guests of the Empire. Quarters have been prepared for you. As the human delegation was escorted from the chamber, Representative Mora approached Sarah quietly. Admiral, may I ask a personal question? Of course. Were you frightened? When the invasion fleets came? When you knew you were facing the full might of the Empire? Sarah smiled slightly. Representative, I'm a 5th-generation Alaskan. My ancestors survived in one of Earth's harshest environments, long before we had advanced technology. My grandmother used to tell me stories about hunting polar bears with nothing but spears and courage. Fear is natural, but we learned long ago that you don't let fear stop you from doing what needs to be done. Your people are remarkable, Mora said softly. No, Sarah replied. We're just human. And that's exactly what makes us who we are. Over the next 3 days, the human delegation participated in cultural exchanges with Zenthari officials. Dr. Chen gave presentations on Earth's biological diversity, shocking the alien scientists with descriptions of organisms that survived in boiling volcanic vents, frozen Antarctic ice, and pressurized deep ocean trenches. The human diplomats toured Zenthari cities, marveling at architecture designed for low gravity and stable climate. In return, they shared recordings of Earth's diverse environments: towering mountains, vast oceans, endless deserts, frozen tundras. One Zenthari engineer, after viewing footage of a hurricane, asked in disbelief, "You built cities in regions where such storms occur regularly." "We built them to withstand the storms," the human engineer replied. "Or we evacuate temporarily and rebuild afterward. Humans are very good at rebuilding." On the third day, the High Council reconvened with the human delegation present. Chancellor Oryx stood to deliver the Empire's decision. Admiral Mitchell, President Okonkwo, representatives of Earth, the High Council has carefully considered your proposals. We have also consulted with military advisors, scientists, and representatives from our member worlds. The chamber fell silent as Oryx continued. Your people defeated 2 Imperial fleets. You demonstrated capabilities we did not believe possible for a single-system civilization. You have every right to demand punitive terms or territorial concessions, yet you offer partnership. You offer cooperation. You offer us dignity, despite our failed invasions of your world. This is not what the Zenthari Empire expected. Oryx paused, and Sarah noticed something in his expression that might have been respect. The High Council has voted. We accept your terms, all of them. Relief flooded through the human delegation, though they maintained diplomatic composure. Furthermore, Oryx added, the Council proposes additional terms. We will provide full technical specifications for faster-than-light travel to humanity. Not as a concession, but as an investment. A species capable of turning a single solar system into an impregnable fortress will undoubtedly put such technology to innovative use. We also propose a joint military exercise within the next standard year, not as preparation for conflict, but to establish protocols for potential cooperative defense operations. The galaxy is vast, and there are threats that neither of our peoples have yet encountered. President Okonkwo stepped forward to formally accept. The United Earth government accepts these terms with gratitude and commitment. We look forward to building a lasting partnership with the Zenthari Empire. The formal treaty signing took place in the Grand Council chamber before representatives from across the Empire. As Sarah applied her signature to the holographic document, she reflected on the journey that had brought humanity to this moment. 3 decades ago, a crashed alien probe in the Pacific Ocean had revealed that humans were not alone in the universe. That discovery could have caused panic, division, and collapse of human civilization. Instead, it had united Earth's nations like nothing else in history. The threat of alien invasion had forced humanity to confront its own divisions. National borders became less important than planetary survival. Religious and cultural differences seemed trivial when facing the possibility of extinction. Economic competition gave way to collaborative effort to build defensive capabilities. And in the process of preparing to defend themselves, humans had discovered something profound. They were stronger together than divided. The United Earth government wasn't just a military alliance. It was a genuine union built on the recognition that humanity's survival depended on cooperation. Now, as Earth joined the galactic community, that lesson would serve them well. 6 months later, the first Earth embassy opened on the Zenthari homeworld. Ambassador Victoria Chen, Dr. James Chen's younger sister, presided over the opening ceremony, attended by representatives from 17 different species. The Kavarian Collective sent observers, impressed by the species that had defeated the mighty Zenthari Empire. The Tarathi Federation proposed trade agreements, eager to acquire Earth's exotic materials. Even the reclusive Silicoid Communion, a species of crystalline beings, expressed interest in establishing contact. On Earth, construction began on the International Spaceport in neutral orbit between Earth and Luna. Designed to accommodate vessels from multiple species, it would serve as humanity's gateway to the galaxy. So already, trade agreements were generating economic activity, that exceeded the predictions of even the most optimistic analysts. Admiral Sarah Mitchell stood on the observation deck of the completed spaceport, watching ships from a dozen different species arrive and depart. Beside her, Commander Thrace, the Zenthari officer who had led the first invasion attempt, served as a military liaison. "I never imagined I would be working alongside humans," Thrace admitted. "6 months ago, I was trying to conquer your world." "6 months ago, I was trying to destroy your fleet," Sarah replied with a slight smile. "Times change." "People change. Species change. Do you think this peace will last?" Sarah considered the question carefully. "Commander, on Earth we have a saying. Peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice. As long as both our peoples are treated fairly, as long as we communicate honestly, and as long as we remember what we learned from our conflict, then yes, I believe this peace will last. And if another species threatens either of our worlds, then they'll discover what happens when a Garden World empire and a Deathworld civilization stand together. I almost pity whoever is foolish enough to try." Thrace made a sound that might have been a laugh. "I used to pity primitives who didn't know their place in the galactic order. Now I understand that we were the primitives. We had never faced a real challenge. We had never fought an enemy that refused to give up. We had never encountered a species that turned adversity into strength. Your people taught us a valuable lesson, Admiral. Power isn't just about military force or technological advancement. True power comes from the ability to survive, adapt, and overcome. The Zenthari Empire conquered 47 garden worlds, but we could never conquer Earth because Earth had already conquered you and in the process made you unconquerable." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "There's an old Earth proverb, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Our planet tried to kill us countless times. Each time we came back stronger. Now that we're reaching out to the stars, we bring that strength with us, not to conquer others, but to stand as equals among the galactic community." Below them, a human transport vessel docked alongside a Zenthari cruiser. Personnel from both species moved freely between the ships, working together on joint projects. Scientists shared research. Engineers collaborated on new technologies. Diplomats negotiated agreements that benefited both civilizations. It was a future that neither species had imagined 6 months earlier. But it was a future built on hard lessons learned through conflict, and the wisdom to choose cooperation over continued warfare. On Earth, President Okonkwo addressed the United Earth Congress, broadcasting to all 7 billion humans across the planet. 6 months ago, we faced our greatest challenge as a species. 2 invasion fleets threatened our existence. We could have despaired. We could have fractured under pressure. We could have failed. Instead, we stood united. We fought with courage and determination. We defended our home against overwhelming odds. And when we won, we chose peace over vengeance. We chose cooperation over domination. We chose to build bridges instead of walls. Today, Earth is no longer isolated. We are part of a galactic community spanning thousands of worlds and hundreds of species. We bring to that community something unique, the perspective of a species that survived on a death world. We understand struggle. We understand perseverance. We understand that true strength comes not from dominating others, but from lifting each other up. The Zenthari Empire learned that lesson the hard way. They came to conquer us and discovered that Earth cannot be conquered. Now they are our partners, our allies, and perhaps someday our friends. This is the path forward for humanity, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as equals standing proudly among the stars. As the President's words echoed across Earth and transmitted to human outposts throughout the solar system, a new era began for humanity. They had proven themselves in combat. Now they would prove themselves in peace. Deep in the Zenthari archives, Elder Kira updated the galactic database with Earth's official classification. The entry now read Sol 3 Earth. Classification: Class 15 Deathworld Inhabitants Humans. Status: Sovereign Territory, Non-Aggression. Treaty in effect, Threat Level. Extreme Recommendation: Approach only with peaceful intent. Species demonstrates exceptional defensive capabilities and willingness to defend territory with overwhelming force. However, they are open to diplomatic and trade relations when approached respectfully. Special note: first recorded instance of a Garden World military force being defeated by a Deathworld species. Recommend all future contact be conducted through proper diplomatic channels with full respect for human sovereignty. Kira added one final personal note to the file, something that wouldn't be official record, but would serve as a warning to future generations. The humans call their world Earth. We nearly made the fatal mistake of calling it a target. They taught us that Deathworlds don't produce victims. They produce survivors, and survivors, once they reach the stars, become a force that cannot be ignored or conquered, only respected. Across the galaxy, word spread of the species from Sol 3. Some saw them as potential allies. Others saw them as threats to be avoided. But all agreed on one thing. The humans had changed the galactic order forever. The age of assuming that primitive worlds could be easily conquered was over. The age of respecting the inherent strength of species that survived harsh conditions had begun. And at the center of that new age stood humanity, looking out at the stars they had dreamed of reaching for millennia. They had survived Earth's 5 mass extinctions. They had survived the Zenthari invasion. Now they would face whatever challenges the galaxy had to offer, together with allies they had earned through strength, defended through courage, and won through offering peace instead of pursuing revenge. The Deathworld had answered the invasion with fire. Now it would show the galaxy what else it could offer: hope, cooperation, and the indomitable human spirit that refused to surrender, no matter the odds. And somewhere in the void between stars, on ships traveling to distant worlds, human explorers carried that spirit with them. They were children of Earth, forged in adversity, tempered by survival, and ready for whatever came next. The galaxy would never be the same. If you felt that chill when humanity spoke, then don't just watch, stand with the fleet. Hit subscribe, like, and share this story so more can remember why Earth is never to be underestimated.